Russia is courting closer relations with India as it embarks on a diplomatic drive. Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi are holding talks in New Delhi. Neha Punya joins us live from New Delhi. Neha, what do both leaders hope to accomplish from these talks?
Well, a lot to unpack here. You have President Putin, who's only going to be in New Delhi for a few hours, and most experts agree this visit is all about the optics. You had Mr. Putin skipping the G20, skipping COP26, and yet here he is in New Delhi engaging with Narendra Modi, and experts say both leaders will try and send out a joint message that they want to reset ties that have seemingly deteriorated in the last couple of years. We've seen how Russia is aligned more and more with Beijing on issues like Afghanistan and the Indo-Pacific, whereas India, because of its ongoing border standoff with China, has been increasing its security cooperation with Washington, D.C. and increasing its engagement with Quad nations. So far, though, the focus of the visit has been primarily on defense ties, which is the mainstay of the India-Russia bilateral relationship. Several pacts have been signed, including one for 600,000 Russian assault rifles, one for extending military technological cooperation for another decade. And there's also going to be clarity we're given to understand from Moscow to New Delhi on the delivery of the S-400 missile systems. This is something India bought back in 2018 for $5 billion, despite repeated threats from the US of facing sanctions. So New Delhi during this visit trying to tell Russia that it should not be worried about its engagement with Quad countries, while simultaneously trying to tell the US that it will continue to engage with Russia because of its own strategic interests in the region.
Neha, if, as you say, India has become more aligned with the United States and Russia more aligned with China, how have tensions between the US and China, what sort of impact have they had on relations between Moscow and New Delhi?
Well, we have seen how Moscow and Delhi have tried to keep this bilateral relationship focused on historic ties, which is why defense makes up such a big part of how they continue to engage and talk about deepening bilateral ties for the future as well. But certainly Beijing and Washington, D.C. have been shadows hanging over this summit. And we saw references to this effect being made by India's defense minister earlier today as well at the first 2+2 format talks between both countries. You had Rajnath Singh saying that there's been unprovoked aggression at India's northern borders and that there's been a lot of militarization in its own backyard without explicitly naming China, but clearly a reference to Beijing. But he also simultaneously made a reference to India's continued engagement with Russia by saying that India's defense needs, because of these challenges, are immediate, and India is looking for sensitive partners that can respond in time to these needs as well. So India trying to keep its relationship with Russia separate from what it's doing with Washington, D.C. and simultaneously we've seen from Russia as well a commitment to continue to provide the defense equipment that India needs, despite sometimes Russia selling the same equipment to China as well.
Oh, thanks so much for all that, Neha Punya in New Delhi.